I am so tired of talking about woke culture, because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. And the only thing that wokeness has to offer in exchange is to brainwash bright young minds like you to believe that you are victims. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of St. Greta of climate change. This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change. You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. A third of all children who live in extreme poverty in the world live in India.
Wokeness has eaten deep into our system, and there is an urgency to stop it.
Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
This is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look, your time.
Bethany, no. That was just as embarrassing as you thought it was. For the last time, wokeness denotes a consciousness of the world around you. Think awake, not victimization or whatever it is you were trying to say. But this does show conservatives have so perverted the word that they can't even define it on their own terms. And I am loving it. Tell me more.
Hey, here's a disclaimer. This video displays woke extremists.
Men do not menstruate. Only women menstruate. Now, you can call yourself whatever you want.
Cis men don't menstruate, but trans men do menstruate.
No,
Same
they
as
don't.
non-binary people.
Only women.
Menstruating is not exclusive to cis women. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So explain to me as to why my body menstruated at some point.
If your chromosomes are XX and you're young, you menstruate. If you're XY, you don't.
Correct, but what about trans men and non-binary? We're
not
excluding
men.
a whole group of people
They're women
that
dressed
menstruate.
as men.
Well, what's a man to you? You define a man for me.
You have chromosomes that are X and Y. That's what a man is.
So why are we just looking at the science of this as an example?
Science.
When we've learned sex and gender identity are they're completely different things.
They're not completely different.
They are
things.
completely different.
Completely different words.
And sex is what you're born with, the sexual reproductive organs you have. Gender is what you identify with. They're completely
Well, I don't
different
accept that
things.
distinction. You have to argue for it. You're just giving a conclusion. You're just making it up.
And this was just the tip of the iceberg. Let's get to the meat of it.
Men actually have to work to become something. We're just here.
But can we get paid the same as men?
We do. If we didn't, that'd be an issue.
What are you talking about? Women do not make as much as men.
If it were true that women who are not in these construction jobs and this type of thing, but rather are in kind of comfy AC-related jobs like the men, and they're getting paid less than them, then why wouldn't a man create an entire firm of women and then destroy their competition because they're now paying their staff way less?
I mean, that's a question for a dude. I can't answer that.
Why couldn't you answer that?
Why wouldn't a man have a firm of all women and pay them less? I don't know.
I mean, because then they would destroy the competition who's paying the men more, right?
Okay, so why don't we see that then?
Because it's not the case that men are making more in those positions than women are. If it was the case that you could pay women less to do the same job, then why wouldn't you just make a firm and pay all of them way less for the same job?
Should I say baseless? Facts and data prove what we say, but the woke narrative does the opposite. It is so funny that they cannot mention even a place where women are paid less.
Hello, everyone. I've been coming here for 5 years now, and I was going to talk to you about some practical things that I thought you could change about 3210, but I've changed my mind. I've been really confused over the last 5 years as to why we spend 45 minutes to an hour of every public meeting talking about how great everyone is and how great everything is in the schools, and now I've figured it out. I figured it out because all these people came here to defend you all from hurtful words. This is obnoxious. Let me just say, there is one goal for the educational system. It should be to prepare children to enter careers to be productive members of society. It is not a counseling session. It is not a self-help area. It is not somewhere to find yourself, and we should not be led by the children, for goodness sake. The children are called dependents for a reason. They depend on us who have fully developed brains. You cannot feel your way through life. The issues that we are talking about, we are bringing you statistics. We are talking about scholastics. We are talking about funding. We are talking about busing. We are talking about trying to figure out how to make our children be as successful as possible. And I am sure that that is your goal. And what we have been called tonight is what they're claiming that we're saying to children. We're having an adult conversation. There are not children in this room. We aren't going into the schools and calling them names. They call us Marxists and hateful and bigots and everything else under the sun. Well, let me tell you, less than 5% of the entire population of North Carolina identifies as LGBTQ. You guys all claim you want democracy.
This is the problem we have here. What does society demand of us? But to stand for what is normative. You would not take driving classes from an inexperienced driver, or would you?
No, the statistics. 50% of children did not pass their end of grade tests. What are we celebrating? We have children coming up here telling us how horrible the mental health crisis is. Why? Most of us went to public school, and all of our peers are not in mental health crises. We have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to our children? I'm going to say we are discussing things with them that they are not emotionally, intellectually, and morally able to handle. That is what is causing the anxiety. That is what is causing the depression. That is what is causing the confusion. We need our children to be able to be children, to be able to be innocent, to be able to enjoy childhood and not know all of the drama and all of the difficulties in adult life.
There are some valid points there. Our children have an identity crisis as a result of what they are exposed to. Let's digress a bit.
Walk me through what happened, and please be specific, okay?
Okay, so I had just eaten this vegan dinner, and it was really bad. It was miso tofu, and there was this coconut bacon on top, but it was bad. It was soggy, and it was
No,
just...
ma'am, the incident. How did it transpire?
Well, I was turning this corner right here, okay? And then they punched me in the face, they took my Goyard bag, and then they flashed me their...
It's okay, calm down. Did they look homeless?
Why would you assume that? Housed people steal things too.
Not really. How many people attacked you?
One?
One? But you just said they.
Yeah, I'm being gender neutral.
Ma'am, I'm conducting a serious investigation. I need you to be more specific. You were attacked by a single male.
I don't know what they were.
But it was one person.
Yes, they were one person.
And you said he flashed his penis at you, correct?
No, I said they flashed their penis at me.
So it wasn't a male penis.
I don't know!
Okay, this is, what were they wearing?
Honestly, they were dressed like a victim of this capitalist society.
Right. Did they have any facial markings, tattoos, scars, beards maybe?
They had a beard.
This woke girl reported to a cop. You could clearly see how communication becomes a barrier because of woke culture. Here is the kicker.
So it was a male human?
Oh, I don't know. You leave me in the desert for 2 weeks and I'd come back looking all Duck Dynasty too.
The officer's response is the best fit for such redundancy.
Everyone say hi to Leslie, our newest hire.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here, ma'am.
Yo, I isn't a man.
Whatever, chick.
Please don't call me a chick.
Oh, well,
My preferred pronouns are she and her. Okay, so who's next?
Yeah. Pronouns. We don't share those here.
Oh, really? So how's anyone supposed to know that I is a girl?
Well, that's kind of obvious.
Wait, did you just assume my gender?
Yes.
Oh, yeah? Okay, wait until HR finds out about this.
Okay, you know what? I do want to share my pronouns. They are your and fired.
What?
Karen, you gotta go.
Well, I need this job.
Well, when you go woke, you go broke. So now you is fired. Get lost.
You're fired. Elon, you're crazy.
All right, let's try to relax. So let's start by dancing to some music. Hit it. politics in these meetings? Well, employee 279, you is fired.
You're fired. You really have to go broke when you are woke. The culture of humility has been lost because of wokeness. Do we really have to eradicate classism because of woke? This balances the society.
Forget STEM. Any of you girls want to use equal pay to sign up for this job? Because feminism, because anything men can do, we can do better. Reject delusions, embrace gender differences.
You saw that gender differences are biological. Women fighting for equality should know that there is a balance to this. Men have their place in society, as do women. Everyone should find their place and function from that point on.
Do you guys remember To Catch a Predator when Chris Hansen always ended up saying, "I'm Chris Hansen, and this is To Catch a Predator"? And every single one of the suspects was transgender? No, because it never happened. How were they the problem?
There's the extreme approach that you are admittedly taking. And then there's also just ordinary people that might not be comfortable with the language change. And it just is awkward. And so they're afraid of not being courteous or being accepting. So there's like these two things. There's actually combating and not being, you don't like transgender, the idea of transgender. That's different than pronouns. But then just for most people, it's just feeling a little bit awkward and unsure and not wanting to hurt or offend somebody.
Well, why is it important for educators to teach about gender identity, gender presentation, and pronouns? Why do you think that's important?
Because there is a difference. There is biological sex, and a lot of times people are conflating sex and gender.
Did you hear that? What has it gotten to social construct to determine the place of biology?
So there's biological sex, and then there's gender, and that's a social construct in the sense that just because you're born biologically a female doesn't mean you automatically want to vacuum, for instance, which is usually a feminine activity or conflated that way. And so it's this idea of giving children in age-appropriate ways an understanding that these things aren't set in stone. Gender identity is not tied to biology.
You say that gender's not set in stone.
It's not.
What do you mean?
I mean that's just factually incorrect, saying that. So you have biology is the chromosomal makeup and reproductive organs and all of that. And so that would be sort of the nature side of things. But the nurture side of things is where we see more of gender identities.
This is illogical and so extreme.
She began by saying that my view is extreme. Okay, so the view that every single person on Earth has held up until 15 seconds ago is extreme. And the view that almost everyone does right now still hold is extreme, apparently, according to her. But there is this they are conflating gender and sex because on one hand they say, well, you got your biological sex, but then your gender is whatever social construct. But then they turn around and say that trans women are women. So a man who identifies with the gender, the social construct of womanhood, actually is a woman. So if you can laugh all you want, but this is a logical problem. You are conflating sex and gender just by saying that. So that's the problem.
There's biological sex, and then there is gender identity. Part of me wants to ask why you care so much, because it's really not that big of a deal.
Oh, yeah. Can I answer that? I'd love to answer that question. I care about the truth. So basic truth matters. I want to live in a society where people care about the truth and we're grounded in truth. Right. I care about children, and these insane ideas about gender are being foisted on kids, and that bothers me quite a bit. I care about the women who are having their opportunities stolen from them. I care quite a bit, yeah.
The truth should be the base of morality in our society. Our children and the preservation of our culture should be the thriving force for us to embrace what is the truth.
We took LGB and then we added LGBTQIA+++, and then we included men who dress up like women and mock women. It's okay if you're proud of your sexuality, but why do I have to be proud of your sexuality?
Why are you so triggered by a flag?
It's a
rainbow flag.
I'm not triggered by a rainbow flag. I'm triggered by the fact that everywhere I go for a calendar month, everything has to be a rainbow flag.
Well, I'm triggered that everywhere I go for the entire year, everything has to be straight. Why is straight
Where's
everywhere?
my straight flag?
Why am I constantly
Where
getting
is
straight?
my straight flag? When have you ever seen a straight flag? Where's my straight flag?
It's everywhere.
There's never been a straight flag.
Both of you are straight, and you're saying you're exhausted.
How do you know I'm straight? How dare you guess my sexuality?
Let's not play games here.
How many letters are there now in the
That's such
initials?
a pointless question.
How many are there?
I don't even know.
How many are there?
I don't need
exactly
to know.
my point.
I don't need to know because it's not about
There
the
are so
letters.
many letters now, we can't keep up with
It's
it.
not.
This is my exact point. What does someone's sexuality have to with flags? Wokeness has nothing to offer at this point.
Statistically, it is true that Asians, right, on average, make more money, better test scores, get into better colleges, all that stuff. I think the question is, why is that? And I don't know, model minority, whatever that label wants
That's
to mean.
actually a myth because we cannot be.
Well, no, listen. Well, let me finish my point. We need to observe what makes people successful and unsuccessful. And I think when you look at trends that are generally true in the Asian community, not of everyone, but are generally true, usually you have families that are sticking together. You have people are taught to work hard in school, not get into trouble. I think that translates to why Asians en masse are successful. And I don't think you have to be Asian or white for that matter to not have kids out of wedlock, not, commit crime, not cause trouble, whatever it is. It's just a matter of common sense. That's what makes people successful. And if that's so-called assimilation, having a nuclear family, buying a house, going to school, whatever it is, then yeah, okay, call me a pro-assimilation then.
I think there's a difference between assimilation and erasure.
Yes.
There is it again. What really makes people successful? Damn it, being particular, changing or fighting for your gender change won't change your social status.
Can you identify as a black person?
No,
Why?
because I'm not black.
I'm not a woman, but I can identify as a woman according to you.
If you transition, maybe.
Defines a transition.
If that's your goal,
If you believe it.
Sure.
If you believe you're black, why aren't you black?
Well, that's just not, that's like genetics. That's like ancestry.
You're also born a man or a woman. It's the same thing. That's also genetics.
Okay, I'm over it.
Did I just hear genetics? It seems she does not know what woke up holds. Very funny.
It's not difficult, is it, Angelica? I mean, that is what a woman is.
I mean, I don't know why you're obsessed with defining it. Like, what is a man? Like, why do we need these arbitrary...
A man is a male adult human, and that's it.
Right, okay, I don't know that we need
These are just biological facts, but they're just facts. They're not arguable points, are they?
But I think we have a right to self-identify, and you said
As
you
what?
want to...
As what?
If
Well, hang
you'd
on.
like to be a woman, you can identify as a woman. I don't know why there is such an issue around
We've
it.
literally just seen a male rapist use that scam to get himself put into a female prison where he could attack vulnerable women inside a female prison, when even his ex-wife said it was all a scam.
Which is a terrible, very distressing, isolated incident, and I think it's easy to take that and say that means that no one can identify as a woman, and
But
that's
it's not an
that's
isolated
fair.
incident, though.
But it's
42% of trans-identifying prisoners in prison are in there for sex crimes. There's actually an advantage, evidently, to identifying as a female because they never identify as male because somehow male prisons seem less appealing to them. It's really weird. Anyway, but
Is it limitless, this self-identity?
It's not totally limitless.
What's the
but
limit?
when you're talking about International Women's Day, I don't know why we take the conversation around International Women's Day and make it about this.
But if
because
anyone...
there's so many benefits
Right, but if
to having
anyone,
a day.
according to you, can identify as a woman, anyone can, right?
I don't see a problem with
Just
someone-
literally put their hand up and say, I'm a woman.
But it's not an easy thing to do, to go out into
Actually,
the world.
it's very easy.
It's
Very
very easy.
easy.
You might think it's easy to say, but to decide to do that, to say
What
this
does
is
doing
who,
it involve?
Whatever that person decides, but to
Does
go
it
out
involve
into the
makeup?
world and say, I don't identify as perhaps the sex I
So
was
why
born
can't
as.
Trans women should then go to men's prison.
Why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was.
I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything
Mhm.
without any need to prove I'm actually what that is,
I
why can't I, on International Women's Day, say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd
No,
status
I think-
where
Morgan got them here. Why can't he?
About quite a
With
strong
respect, I think
physical
that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say, I'm a woman. So I simply ask you, why can't I?
I mean, this point kind of ridicules trans people to an extent.
Actually, I think what you said ridicules trans people. Because actually, people who go through the full process of transition, who actually go through what we used to call a sex change, which I don't think you can muck around with original biology, but those who actually go through surgical procedure over a number of years, I've got great respect for that very difficult journey they go on. I have zero respect for people who just wallop their hand up and go, suddenly, I'm a woman, and I want all the rights that a woman has, and I want to compete, say, in sport. I'm a 6'4" athlete, sprinter, swimmer, whatever, who's competed very mediocrely in male sport. I now want to come in and crush women in swimming pools and in sprinting events and break all their records, perhaps irrevocably, just by saying, I'm a woman. I think that is the absurdity you were talking about.
These woke people just have baseless thoughts.
Coming to our restaurants and then you get some people coming to your table and trying to disrupt your evening. It's abuse.
I'm going to start running into vegan restaurants.
That's fine. Go for
just
it. That's
shouting
your
and
right-
being
that's your
annoying
right
and
to protest
grabbing
this.
tables and so you can't eat your gruel and just see how you lot like it. I'm going to go to
Piers.
your house and chop paint
Piers.
all over it.
Piers, you've got a right to protest. Oof! You've got me another one.
Take it off your bingo.
Fantastic.
Take it off your bingo, son.
But where's the salt? Where's it?
Won't need any of this gruel.
That's it.
Let's put that
Fantastic.
to one side, but I will have a bit of steak just to...
You didn't salt it, though.
You see, all you've achieved is you've made me want to do this. Just eat a
That's
lovely...
absolutely fine. You go for it.
Morgan has a way of obliterating these guys. Why bring a steak where a vegan is? This is the funniest thing on the internet today.
How much do you weigh?
Look, I'm not going to talk about numbers because the thing is, when you...
Well, I think you should. I mean,
No, the thing is, if I give you the number of how much I weigh, it's going to be all over the Sun, all those trashy newspapers tomorrow morning. I don't need it. Don't need it.
Well, you don't need it. You're on TikTok every
but the
day
thing
showing
is-
us how big you are.
Yeah, and look...
And you're proud of it.
No, there's a difference. There's proud, and then there's just being positive in my own skin. And that's what I am.
Right.
I'm not proud to be fat.
Would
I'm
you
not proud
accept?
to...
Would you accept that by medical definition you are morbidly obese?
Morbidity obese.
If that's what medically you want to call it, then call it.
Well,
It's
no,
fine.
you
It's
know
not-
your weight. I don't.
No. But that's you could say that. Yeah.
Right. So here's
You could
my
say
issue
that.
with this body positivity thing. People shouldn't be celebrating being morbidly obese, in my estimation.
But that's
because actually it is a dangerous condition that causes many people to die.
Look, you've got a fair point. It is dangerous. It can lead to dangerous issues, which could, diabetes and so on. And that is an issue. But we don't encourage gaining weight. There's a difference between the videos you just showed on the screen.
Come off,
what we're
George,
talking about now.
you're doing this-
'cause
these
you're-
TikToks are all geared to you.
You're showing people encouraging eating food. I'm just saying, wow, look at the pizza. Look, it's from Costco. It's nice.
No,
it tastes
you're
nice.
not. You're not.
No, that's
you
what
are.
I'm doing.
Sorry, George.
That's what I'm doing.
You are glorifying,
Glorifying.
scoffing.
It's called taking
right,
the piss.
endless-
That's what it is.
Well, maybe.
That's what it is.
I don't
it's
think.
having a laugh and not taking yourself too
Why
seriously.
Why
in
is
life.
it funny?
Because it is funny. You know it is funny.
It's
You had a
not
little
funny.
smirk yourself before.
I actually don't
you
find
see
this
it
kind of thing
yourself.
funny. I think
No,
it's,
come on.
I actually think it's quite sad.
It's not sad. It's comedy.
Let me bring him.
It's
let me,
satire comedy.
Well, maybe.
You know it is. You know it is.
I'm not-
You know it is, Piers.
We are encouraging the wrong things here. Why would you encourage people to eat more and say you are comfortable in your own skin? Let's go back to our biology makeup.
Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that. Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned
so
at birth.
I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born, I'm talking about biology, male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged.
Intersex.
But again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
And what
say
does intersex mean?
is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as...
More than 5?
I think the gender is not a binary is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than 5 genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than 5 genders?
Are they more than 5?
I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
Are there more than 5?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is that gender is a reflection. Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
Why won't you answer the question? We have to retrace these steps. We should not allow our children to determine what they want to do. We should create pathways that they should follow.
Get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are 3 sexes, male, female, and intersex.
I believe that to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And there are an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl, okay? Biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician and I can't speak to that.
What's your real world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are shorter.
You don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
For God's sake, Serena is skillful. She has built herself to be where she is. She did not become that because she is a woman. Let's get the record straight.
Male, female.
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights. to be able to compete fairly in sport, in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is really a waste of taxpayers' money to discuss this in Congress in this manner.
How do you define wokeness? Because I hear people use the term all the time, and it means something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you? 5-10 years ago, bedrock liberalism was we are striving to be a colorblind society where we don't see race. Of course, we see it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what woke is. Woke is something very different. It's identity. We see it all the time. It's always the most important thing. I don't think that's liberalism. I mean, I could mention so many issues like that.
These movements lack inspiration. This is literally an identity crisis, and people have been sold the wrong stuff.
These people literally want parents to stop having any control of their kids whatsoever.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that an award-winning book, All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have pedophilia. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school?
So now you've asked me a question. I'm going to answer it. What's the name of the main character in All Boys Aren't Blue? You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe. You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. What I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school.
A spade is not a shovel. Let's call what it is.
But would you use alternate pronouns if a student asked you to?
I think I've made my position on that clear already.
Well, perhaps not to our audience at home who are just being introduced to this. Would you use alternate pronouns? And why not?
Because I don't believe that other people have the right to determine what language I use, especially when it's backed by punitive legislation. And when the words that are being required are the constructions, they're artificial constructions of people I regard as radical ideologues whose viewpoint I do not share.
And Bill C-16 is actually not about cisgender people. It's about protections for transgender people. And that's not, it's not about Jordan Peterson. So, we should have people learning to listen more. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a very good reason. When things get political, I like to ask who benefits and who gets to decide the rules of the game. So, mostly with this Peterson controversy, which is really just a small drama, a tempest in a teapot, he could just get over learning to program a few pronouns into his phone. By the way, I only have half a dozen or so that I actually use on an everyday basis, so it's not all that difficult.
Professor Peterson, sorry, Professor Peterson, you can jump in because I think Professor Peterson wants to get in on that.
Yeah, well, kindness is the excuse that social justice warriors use when they want to exercise control over what other people think and say. So, if we're bandying back and forth our differences in values, I would say that the highest possible value is truth, and that one of the concomitants is that we need stringent protection for freedom of speech so that we can utter the truths that we see fit. And I think that that's a value that's much higher than kindness, for example. I mean, there's lots of situations in life where kindness in the immediate present is not the appropriate way to react at all.
Facts help us understand why things happen the way they do, but these woke guys just want to live in oblivion.
Of which there are many, dozens in fact, and there's no consensus on them, and that doesn't even begin to start a discussion about the use of the other kin pronouns, and you can look those up if you want, because if you can define your identity subjectively any way you want, then there's absolutely no reason that you can't claim a non-human identity. And you may not know, but in the LGBT Rainbow Coalition, there is Q+, and the Q+ people include the other kins who claim a non-human identity, and they're arguing in that Rainbow Coalition that they have the same right to their pronouns that everyone else does, and their pronouns include such things as worm self. You're not supposed to interrupt
Actually, I was just going to ask if you could go back to the point about the analogy between the racial slur and the
I don't think there's any analogy at all.
But
I
that's
think the
what
difference
people wanna
between,
hear you
I'm
on.
talking about compelled speech. There's a difference between saying that there's something you can't say and saying that there are things that you have to say. And I regard these made-up pronouns, all of them, as the neologisms of radical PC authoritarians. Do you understand that?
Peterson has some valid arguments here.
In America, 60% of the shootings, robberies, and the homicides are committed by black people, often against other black people. You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Have you ever heard of the term Nick wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded by an unexpected act of racism.
I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. And he came in here and told you you aren't even black unless you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a Nick wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
It just keeps getting worse.
And said, Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest woman in the world? Honestly, bro, the oldest woman in the world, because then I wouldn't be gay. Are you like, Chase, how dare you be transphobic?
Yes, actually, what the f do you mean?
Because if I had sex with a trans woman, I'd be having sex with a biological man, and I don't want to do that. Because I'd be gay if I had sex with a biological man.
That's not gay.
That's
And
gay.
I don't even shut the f up, actually.
I'm
She's right. I mean, that's really
What?
hateful,
She's
bro.
not. She's not. Would technically be homosexual. A trans woman is a biological man. Sue me. It's true. You know what God said? It said He made them man and women. Who knew that stating biological facts would make people walk off the show?
ID, she just walk out. There you have their brain to things.
So you can say whatever you want, but you need to be ready for like the repercussions of what you say.
Okay, you're not free to say whatever you want if you get fired for an off-color joke.
Okay,
How would you feel when it's you who's out of step with the social mores
okay,
of the
and
day?
then you get the repercussions of what you
I
said.
think you're still acting like this is something new, though. People have been fired.
Well, I'm not,
for
but
things-
two wrongs don't make a right,
People have been fired for things that they've said for forever. But now we're seeing an era where if you're disrespectful or bigoted towards someone, you get fired for that. I don't see that as a bad thing.
But it's a lot more that's been caught up
The
than
point
just
is, the
that.
threshold has really gotten low.
And I really want to address the idea that what's going on currently with regard to free speech is in any way normal. We checked our latest data on attempts to get professors canceled on campus. It's 770. It involves over 40 tenured professors getting fired. You didn't have these kind of numbers, even during McCarthy.
A wake-up call is needed here. What has gotten us into this mess?
I think because you're a man, you shouldn't have any words.
Okay, you're saying because I'm a man, I'm not affected by abortion, I shouldn't have an opinion on it?
Pretty much.
Okay, are you affected in any way by the Holocaust?
Not personally, I'm not.
Do you think the Holocaust is bad?
I do.
So you have an opinion on something that doesn't directly affect you, right?
Does anyone else find it interesting that when liberal betas are out there virtue signaling and advocating for the destruction of innocent, defenseless life, women never have this opinion, and yet when men actually do what they're supposed to do and stand up for the unborn, they're told that they shouldn't have an opinion? Kind of funny how that works, isn't it?
Very funny it is.
I really wanted to thank you for coming out today and specifically for talking to those who have different viewpoints than your own. I'm not looking to argue with you. I just want to know about the ideology as to why you think that a woman shouldn't have the right to her own bodily autonomy in regards to abortion.
A woman should have the right to her own bodily autonomy, but not to kill another human. You know, but as far as the idea that I'm like sitting awake at night thinking, how do I control women's bodies? No, not really, not at all, actually. The thing that I do care about is the preservation of human lives. I don't have an argument that pro-choicers are ignoring a premise. That's fine. You're allowed to ignore a premise or think a premise that I'm giving is wrong. It turns out that the vast majority of women for literally all of human existence have engaged in childbearing and rearing, and it has not, in fact, ruined their lives. In fact, married women with children are, by poll data, the happiest women in America.
All right, thank you for the straw man fallacy. Thank you.
I missed what she actually said. What was it? Straw man?
Straw man fallacy, I think.
You can't just shout straw man and run away. Do you want to come back and explain why it was a straw man or no? Okay, you're just going to run away.
I said this earlier. It is just brainwashed words.
Are you taking down those flyers?
Yeah.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why are you taking down flyers that aren't yours?
Because you took down our flyers. Flyers, yeah.
I'm not taking down your flyer. It's right there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'm really proud that you can count, but that doesn't mean that you can take down other people's flyers.
Don't care.
Don't interrupt me when I'm talking. That's incredibly rude.
I don't care if I'm rude to you. You're
So you're going to say that?
You.
Oh, you're so nice. You want to empower on International Women's Day?
Why are you threatened by trans women?
I'm not threatened by anyone. You seem to be really threatened by ideas that disagree with you. And you can't regulate your emotions enough to go to an event or just ignore an event that you don't agree with. You have to,
sorry,
you
you're
have to
against
go to
freedom
flipping
of
off
speech.
people, and you're covering up people's speech.
Sorry, Snowflake. You can't handle, like, you flipped me off.
Unlike
wow,
you, words
wow.
don't hurt me, so you can call me anything you want.
I'm gonna report you that say it.
Why don't we like the patriarchy? Because the patriarchy. Why?
Because it makes it so much harder to exist and just like have equal rights, and it just that.
So do you think women have it like harder in society?
Yes, definitely.
Do you think men at all face any hardships at all, or is it really just like an attack on women in our society?
Well, I feel like they're really expected to be the breadwinners all the time.
Do you like that or not like that?
I personally like that because I wouldn't mind not working in the future. So
in the future, you want to be a mom?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, you want to be a wife?
Yes.
What does that look like for you if we don't like the patriarchy?
I'm gonna let you answer that one. Oh, well, I was just gonna say it's not about like hardships, it's just about like making it an even playing field.
Okay.
I mean, everyone can have a hard life, but women are like statistically targeted more.
It gets very stupid here, shooting themselves in the leg. Well, getting to this very point means you are determined, like myself, to see this ideology eradicated from our society.
Meanwhile, drop your view on this matter. Also ensure you like and subscribe to this channel. We stand for the truth.